Hello and welcome to Unacademy. I welcome you all to this Conquer Prelims session of History in News. Now, in the next one and a half hours, close to 2 hours, we'll be discussing very important art and culture current affairs which have been in the news between January and June of 2025. As you know, that we have divided this current affairs 1 year into two parts. Today we'll do Jan to June, and tomorrow we'll do June to December. Now, the idea is very simple. With regards to art and culture, though it is a static portion or be it modern India, nowadays questions are dictated by what has been in the news and current affairs per se. So, in this session, I have 2 to 3 major heads under which we'll have a discussion. I'll show you the list of topics which we'll cover also. Good evening to all of you. And we will also try to understand certain topics through questions. I have questions in certain critical areas where I believe that a question can be made and is generally important. Meaning, throughout this session, we'll keep on practicing, we'll keep on revising as we always do. And I hope that this one and a half hours is going to be extremely productive. You don't have to watch any other video. You don't have to go through any other sources. With regards to the sources which I have followed here, it would include the CCRT website. It would include the what we call as different magazines, Yojana Kurukshetra, plus which include the what we call as PIB and anything and everything related to art and culture which is in the news, Hindu, Indian Express, and Hindustan Times, along with the TOI. So, when it comes to this session and the topics which we are covering, it is as exhaustive as possible. No unnecessary topic I'm taking because the more we waste your time, it is very critical that you don't waste your time in unnecessary topics. So, I have a mix of close to 24 to 25 topics, out of which some fall under GI. So, it becomes a good mix of 20 topics in that regard. Now, if you look at the list per se, Jan to June, I am doing it in the gradation of importance, not in the gradation of months per se, but in the gradation of importance. Meaning, where I believe that the topic is more important, I'm doing it first. And then as we go on, last topic is Republic Day, which basically would mean January of 2025. Now, this Republic Day, we will get another set of current affairs, which I will cover in the third phase of Conquer Prelims. But what we will do is we will cover 1.5 years as comprehensive as possible. So we will, in a way, discuss UNESCO. We'll discuss tangible, intangible, memory of the world register. We'll discuss UCCN. We will also discuss the aspects related to, for example, GI. I have a whole section for GI here where I will give you the first list of GI. And today and tomorrow, I'll share at least two lists with you, which you can revise and cover as per your understanding. Further, we will also discuss certain personalities which are in the news and certain renamings which have happened. One of them was in the news 1 year back, but was also in the news because of Muscat and Oman and INS Condinia. We'll discuss INSV Condinia. We'll discuss all of that. So the list I've given in the PPT, when you get this PPT through the link given in the description box, you can use this list to revise also. It's a list of 3 slides and has close to 24 to 25 topics today. Tomorrow, again, 25 to 30 topics, which makes everything perfectly fine. So what I have done is I have followed the period of what we call as uh, the Jan to June, but I've changed it gradationally according to the purpose in that regard. Remember one thing, tomorrow I'll do two very important things, which is any anniversary which is there, 100th, 50th, 150th, I'll do it tomorrow. And any personality whose death or birth anniversary falls, I'll again do it. You will find all the PDFs in the description box, what we call as link. You will get it there only, right? So if everybody is here, can we start? Everyone, do I have everybody here? I want it to be a two-way interaction, not a one-way interaction. If you don't follow, from time to time, I'm going to ask you to answer the questions. You're going to do that also. Great, beautiful. Now, before we begin, remember that if you are planning to get a certain revision based test series, URTS is the product for you, and you can get the what we call as offline feel with regards to the physical OMR sheet and the papers itself also. Now, let's start with UNESCO Creative Cities Network, and Lucknow is the context. The link is given in the description box, Tarak, for that also. Let's talk about the context. Now, UCCN, this time, two major changes are there. First is that you have an addition of a city from India. Further, there's a change in the criteria also. This is very important, which you have to understand. There's change in criteria also. So, firstly, Lucknow, I'll write big so that you can see it on your mobile screen. Lucknow has been added as a city of gastronomy. Yes, food for its slow cook techniques, for its biryanis, for its Nawabi culture. Lucknow has been added into the gastronomy section of the UNESCO Creative Cities Network. First. Second, a new category has been added under, it used to be seven, now it is eight, which is architecture. Architecture has now been added as a new category under the Creative Cities Network. So, other than literature, for example, gastronomy or design or film, now you also have one more category under which cities can be added. Now, this category is critical for us generally because architecture is something where India will excel generally. Meaning we have multiple cities which could be added under the architecture concept. So, the context for this is the Uzbekistan session, 43rd session of the UNESCO General Conference of Creative City Networks. And under the Creative City of Gastronomy, Lucknow has officially been added. Second thing is why it has been added, and I will keep the discussion as prelims oriented as possible because every minute passed is critical for you. So, the reason why it has been added is because of its different recipes, dum style, slow cooking techniques, and culinary tradition with regards to Awadhi cuisine, Persianized cuisine, and the way they have a Nawabi culture around food itself. Now, the second corollary or the second question which automatically emerges out of this topic is what is UCC? Meaning, in the process of teaching you all of these things, I will also be discussing a lot of organizations based out of UNESCO or independent. Please do keep a track of that also because other than the current affairs, the straightforward organization can also come through. So UCCN created in 2004 and the idea was sustainable urban development and strategic, you can say, partnership between cities based on the same concept and same design or same category. Close to 408 cities, over 100 countries are there. So this is the basic, you can say, objective of UCC. However, what matters to us is this: the fields under which you can get some form of recognition. Now, previously it used to be folk, art and craft, design, film, gastronomy, literature, media, and music. Now, architecture has been added. Architecture has been added. This is an important point for you, that there is now a new category itself which exists. Other than that, the next most important set of facts which can come in the examination is what is this the existing list of cities and under what category are they placed. For example, under craft and folk art, we have two cities, Srinagar and Jaipur. Very important to remember, not just the city, but the category also. Thereafter, we have Chennai for music, along with Banaras or Banarsi for music. Again, Carnatic music, along with the Hindustani music gharana. And that is where Gwalior also comes to. Gwalior, one of the oldest gharanas in that regard. Then, under gastronomy, we already had Hyderabad for its biryani and its, again, what we call as culinary tradition. Now we have Lucknow also in it. Kozhikode for literature, Mumbai for film. So what is important is that under design we have no city. Under design we have no city per se as of right. And now architecture, from this year onwards, most probably we will also have we will also have multiple Indian cities being added because our cities are known for their architecture. So remember this point. Remember this point. Media, arts, and design are two concepts which are not in this list. Media, arts, and design. These two categories, we have nothing. Whilst craft, music, film, gastronomy, literature, music, and gastronomy is there. Now, please learn this because this will help you in the examination generally. So, two categories. This is for elimination. This is for elimination so that you can easily eliminate in the examination if they are based on these two aspects. Now, let's try to revise these things. In this session itself, let's learn and practice so that you don't have to go through this session again. It is very simple for you to learn. So, what is the first edition aspect? Architecture. Don't have to remember the years. Thereafter, we have folk art, film, gastronomy, literature, music, media arts, and design as the fields. And the second aspect, which is important for this article, is Lucknow has been added. No city under media, art, and design. But this column per se is not important for you. What is important is these two columns, which pertain to city and which pertain to what is called as the category under which they are there. Arts is under, yes, arts comes under folk art, meaning any form of handicraft tradition. It falls under this only. It's a very generic word in that regard. Now, can I ask you a question here? Can we all ask a question? If you have understood this, can I ask you a question? Chronology, not important. Latest edition should be there. Yes? Okay. Tell me the answer to this question. Once you have answered it, then only I'll read it. I want you to read it. Because when you read it yourself, your mind plays games with you. So please read this and tell me what is the answer to this question. Come on, come on. C, B, C, 2, B, C. Now only 2 is coming through. B, B, B. Okay. Some of you are not reading the statements fully. That is why you're answering C. Very good. Lucknow has been officially declared as a UNESCO Creative City of Music. No, not of music. Gastronomy. This statement becomes incorrect. The UCCN includes architecture as a field which was newly introduced in 2025. Yes, totally correct. B is the answer. B is the answer. So please read closely. The moral of the story is sometimes everything looks perfectly fine. But if you go one step further, you will realize that there will be smaller details here which could be incorrect. Right? Okay. Now, moving on to the second topic is again related to UNESCO. We have Lucknow Architecture, UNESCO, UCCN. Now we go to UNESCO's Memory of the World Register. Memory of the World Register. Now, two new additions have happened into the Memory of the World Register, which is Gita and the Natyashastra. Now, please understand one thing very clearly. There are three aspects here which have to be learned and have to be understood. Firstly, is that see, a lot of our oral traditions, lot of our literary traditions, lot of our archives, they all are now not relevant for the Gen Z population or, for example, for contemporary politics or maybe even contemporary studies. But they are very, very important part of our heritage. Now, in that context, it is important that we don't forget the most celebrated traditions, the celebrated texts of India in that regard. This is called selective amnesia, meaning over a period of time, we can sometimes forget something and remember something. Now, what Memory of the World Register does is all those important texts, be it in oral tradition form, be it in archival tradition, be it in manuscript form, which need to be conserved, which are a very important heritage of humans as man, as humankind, very, very important. They are documented, they are preserved, and they're given even a special symbol so that people can find it, read it if they want to. This is where the Memory of the World program is a critical aspect of UNESCO in making sure that global documentary heritage is not lost. And the idea is it is not just specific to manuscripts, be it manuscripts, be it oral tradition, be it audiovisual content, be it archival material. Whatever it is, if it has universal value, it will be protected, permanently accessible to everyone, and preserved. It's a global compendium of a literary tradition which is critical for our existence and is valuable for the further generations. Now, India obviously is a very culturally diverse and very culturally rich. So we have 14 entries. With these two entries, 14 such things which have been recognized. I'll give you the list of 14 also. But for you, the latest matters. The first one, obviously, being Bhagavad Gita. Not for literature. Literature meaning anything which has words, be it audiovisual, be it oral, be it manuscript based, be it the concept of meaning. When I say literary, it means it is an intangible tradition. Tangible would be something which has archaeological value. Chahak. Now, when we talk about Bhagavad Gita, I think as a citizen of India, we all know the importance of this text related to Mahabharata's Bhishma Parva, attributed to the sage Vyasa, and has 700 verses of philosophical dialogue between Arjun and Lord Krishna. And this you can say dialogue is forever remembered to be answered to multiple aspects of our existence, be it with regards to karma, be it with regards to dharma, be it with regards to devotion, be it with regards to what we should do in life. When you have an ethical dilemma, the Bhagavad Gita comes to your rescue. And that is where we have multiple versions of it also. We have multiple renditions it of also, and we have multiple texts which refer to it also. So Bhagavad Gita should have been added much earlier, but is now protected for World Heritage purposes. Further, another very important text, if you have done art and culture, and if you do dance, music, any of these art forms, one text every time comes into context. That is Bharta Muni's Natya Shastra. Natya Shastra is a text which is extremely important with 36,000 verses of our literary traditions, of our what we call as dance traditions, of our musical traditions, all in one compendium. Be it drama, dance, music, or aesthetic experience, the concept of ras, which is emotion, in what we call as our architectural forms to even our performative arts, all are talked about in Natyashastra. That was, it is a treatise which is considered to be the basis of all dance and musical forms and drama forms in India. So it again deserves to be part of this memory of the world register. Now, there are 14 total. If you look at the list of the 14, here, Natya Shastra and Bhagavad Gita, these are the latest edition. Now, you will realize one thing. This edition or this concept is updated bilineally, which is every 2 years. This is updated every 2 years, and this compendium adds, you can say, new text every 2 years. But if you look at the list, you will realize this is happening year after year. This is where they are trying to fix the COVID years, where there was no list generated in 19, 20, 21 period where there was COVID. That is why they are still publishing year on year, but on paper it has to happen every 2 years. Please remember this point. This is not a tentative list. There's no concept of tentative list here. The Dutch archives in India, along with the Rig Veda, were one of the first to be added. Then we have Shanti Niketan archives of Rabindranath Tagore, very important generally. Then we have the Tamil Nadu medical archives and state archives, which were fully preserved under this concept. Then the most recent three before this were the Sandhya Lokala Lokana, which is a very important text on music. Panchtantra, we all know, very important text written with what we call as childish ethics, teaches you moral and ethics to stories. And the Ramcharitamanas, again, very celebrated texts across Southeast Asia and Asia, again added. So my suggestion to you is, please try to learn 10 to 14, which is Ramcharitamanas, Panchtantra, the Sandharya, the Bhagavad Gita, and Natya Shastra. Why am I saying this to you? Because if they go beyond it, then you have Ziauddin Marzi's Tariq-e-Firoshahi, you have Shiva manuscript at Pondicherry, and the Sanglok collections, but these are the latest editions. 2024, 25, my basic understanding is. This text is related to musical tradition, musical and dance tradition, but more related to music. So I have given you the latest edition also. I have also given you the whole list, but please don't try to learn the whole list. And I have also made it a point to give you the details of the text itself. You don't have to go anywhere else. Now, I have a question for you. Can I ask you that question? Everybody's on the same page with me. Anybody has any issue here? Come on, quickly. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Now, tell me the answer to this question. No, Aditya, not the whole list, but at least last 2 years. Come on, read it. Read the answer. Read the question properly. That's an extra Y. C A C. The first statement is correct. Second statement is incorrect. It should have been any. It said any. And with the recent inclusion of Gita and Natya Shastra, India now made an entry in the no. We have already 14 such manuscripts. So this says that for the first time we made an entry into it. No, incorrect. Answer A. So very simply, they can play with the number, they can play with this concept. This is not that relevant, and they can play with the text itself. So please, these texts are important, and this compilation is going to be generally important. Panchtantra's compilation is, yes, Gupta period, Gupta and post-Gupta. Perfectly fine. Is it bilineal? Yes, it should be bilineal, but they are fixing the COVID gaps. That is why it is coming year on year. Right? Do we need it? No, don't need to remember the authors per se. Jeet, there is gradation. First, learn the text, then learn their authors if you remember. For example, Natya Shastra Bharta Muni is very well known. Again, Vyasa and Bhagavad Gita, very well known. With regards to Panchtantra, there's no Vishnu Gupta, but there is no specific personality you need to remember. Vishnu Sharma, as he's called. Gupta Vishnu Sharma. So there is a way to learn facts. First, learn the main fact, then learn the subsidiary fact. If you can learn the main facts first, then you learn the subsidiary. There's a whole already a you can say a very big set of text which you have to remember. I'm just trying to decrease the load as much as right. Okay, perfect. Now we move away. We move away from UNESCO to a very important site. Now, I'm not sure if UPSC will go down this lane, but Kiladi deserves its place in this list. And the reason for that is these excavation along with Shivagalai also we will discuss in the end, has forever questioned a lot of things in Indian history. Not fully established, not fully accepted, but is going to be accepted for sure soon. Now, in order to understand the reason why this is important, is you have to there's a whole story behind the excavation not being scientific enough, not technically supported. But let's first try to decode why is this place so important. See, in Indian history, there's a timeline which we follow. The timeline which we follow. The timeline works like this. The timeline works like this, which is we have Paleolithic. This is revision for ancient medieval art and culture also for you. Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic. We have non-Harappan Chalcolithic, IVC. And then the story gets divided into North and South, which is early Vedic, later Vedic, Mahajanpadas, Maurya, post Maurya, Gupta. Now, if I put the years into it, 2.5 million years ago, close to 4,000. This is rather 10,000 here, 4,000 BCE here, 2,600 here, 1,500 here, 1,000 here, 500 here, 324, 321 here, thereafter 184 here, and 300 CEE. This is basically the timeline which we follow for North. Now, the South story is kept ambiguous with regards to what is called as megalithic, and megalithic is placed between 3000 to 300 CE and thereafter rather BCE, and from 300 to 300 CE it is called as Sangam period, and thereafter we have the Satavahanas, and then the last is Vaka Takas. This is basically the timeline. If you have the courseware, you would find this in the first page itself. I hope you've seen that in the courseware also. Now, this is an accepted time. But in the accepted timeline, there are certain prerequisites. The prerequisite is first urbanization happens here, second urbanization happens here. Sangam is 300 to 300, 3rd century BC, 3rd century CE. Now, Kiladi is a site which is a Sangam site. Falls under the larger concept of Vagai Valley civilization, which is now becoming more and more in the news and important generally. And what is interesting is Kiladi, if I put it on a timeline, it is coming out to be 800 BC. Now, why this is important is this pushes the timeline of South India Sangam age to 800, which would then make the second urbanization Kiladi and Vegai Valley civilization and not Mahajanpad. This is very critical. Understand this point, very critical. This will forever change our understanding that the South has been following the North. This will forever change the understanding that iron came first in North, then in South. We would have to then revise the whole timeline itself. That is why there is backlash from ASI versus Tamil Nadu ASI. I've done a whole session on this in order to explain to you why this is so critical. But I hope that you will understand that any question on this, you have to argue and you have to say that it is Vegai Valley civilization, which falls at 800 BC. If I add Shivagalai, which I will discuss with you later, the whole timeline itself is upside down. Interesting site, and this site has yielded multiple things also. It very simply, in Indian history, first urbanization is Indus Valley civilization. Second urbanization is Mahajanpada with the rise of Buddhism, Jainism, the punch marked coins come through, economic development, this and that. But at the same point of time, the Vegai Valley civilization and Kiladi in that regard actually gives us more indications of urbanization with even early writing and pushes the timeline of urbanization in India to 800. Basically, Sangam does not remain a 600-year period, but becomes a 1,000 plus year period, and the megalithic understanding that gets questioned also. Why this site is generally important is because if you go to the archaeological report of Kiladi and if you go to Kiladi Museum, it has yielded firstly period of 800 BC, Further, we have found potsherds which have inscriptions of early Tamil Brahmi also. Further, we have seen that there is a lot of pottery and craftsmanship, so there's craft diversity also. What is even more interesting is we've seen linkages with the IVC also. We've seen IVC pottery in the Vagai Valley civilization, and bead making, iron smelting, everything we have found. If asked in the examination, you cannot write second urbanization as Kiladi because it has not been accepted by the ASI as of right now and not been added into the general public's understanding. But as a UPSC aspirant, you can be asked the basic reason why it was in the. This civilization is as you can say diverse as IVC, as you can say connected as IVC, connected to the IVC, and also at the same point of time very urban. So I have a question for you here to show to you how they can ask a question in the examination. But I hope that you understand the theoretical underpinnings of this topic. The theoretical underpinnings of this topic is that the whole timeline goes for a spin. If you understand that, I would like to ask you that question. Can I do that? Yes, sir. But IVC ended around 1500 BC. This would mean that Kiledi had a certain phase which is as early as 1500. And the IVC was trading with Velai Vagasi. That is the connection. That is where it is even more interesting. Okay. Read this question and answer me. Hmm. Thank you so much for that message. The question has a googly in it. Read it properly. Both the statements are correct. Read properly. You said you learned from the session with Sham sir. Doing the same thing with me. क्या हुआ? Played on the front foot was a back foot delivery. The answer, you are correct. But this is called a classical blunder in UPSC. You knew the answer, but did not read the statement fully. So please, sometimes in the excitement, there's a reason I'm not reading the question. You must have realized it. There's a reason I'm not reading the question. Because if I read the question, you would have noticed incorrect. That is why I'm not reading the question. I'm making you read the question so that your mind can play games with you. That is the whole point here. Right? Okay. Chalo, koi baat nahi. Now, we move to the fourth major topic, which was initially in the news in February, March, but again came in the news just 15-20 days before. From Porbandar, the INSV Kondinya actually started its voyage for Muscat in Oman and it completed it. Now, what is so special about this ship? Firstly, its name, and second, the way it has been made. Now, INSV Ondinya is one of the first Tankai method stitch ships, which was reconstructed out of Ajanta paintings using an ancient technique of shipbuilding, which is specific to India, and Ministry of Culture, Indian Navy, and Goa based shipbuilding company together took this historic voyage. Now, if you look at INSV Virginia, you will realize that it is not a random ship. It is not a ship which you will see on any port across the world. Why? Because of the way it has been built and the symbolism which is also there. There are certain aspects which you should know. First is that it is inspired from the Ajanta murals paintings, and further it has a what is called as Gandhaberunda, which is a two-headed eagle, a symbol of the Kadamba dynasty, plus a sun motif which is very common across the Indian civilization, plus a yali which is used in temple architecture, plus a Harappan style stone anchor which we have found at Lothal. And therefore, this ship's architecture, its technique, and its history goes from IVC till the Kadambas, from ancient to early medieval to medieval. And that is where even foreign travelers have referred to a method which was not known anywhere else across the world, which is called the Tankai method. Now, why is Tankai method so important? Tankai method is important because unlike European ships, which have a lot of nuts, steel elements, and nails, this is a stitch ship, which means teak, sal, and mango wood are drilled and stitched together with coil ropes and then made waterproof by adding cotton resin and fish oil. Very interesting way of making a ship. So what they do is that they don't need iron, and you know what happens to iron when seawater actually is exposed to it. This makes the ship work for year on year without any rusting. So therefore, it is easier to make, easier to maintain, and works. And the ship's hull is first constructed. It's a very interesting thing. First, the hull is constructed, then the ribs are made, and that makes the frame extremely sturdy. What makes this whole concept so unique and important is that, see, India is not a space which should be associated per se with what is called as savage, barbaric, this colonial notion that we had nothing to show for. We were building ships which could stand the high seas for year on year without any major repair. Tankai method is a testimony to the, you can say, craft diversity, the technique diversity, and the engineering of the Indian subcontinent. To the Europeans, this is a slap. At a time when your ships would not survive 5 years, we had ships which were waterproofed with indigenous material, which was locally available, all resistant to seawater. And that is where this is reclaiming of our history. And the naming is even interesting. The naming is interesting because who is Kondinia? I may be pronouncing it incorrectly, but Kondinia is considered to be the first century Indian mariner who traveled to the Mekong Delta and married a warrior queen there called Soma. And he is the one who is the founder of the Kingdom of Funan, which is considered to be modern day Cambodia, Khmer, and Vietnamese origin. Meaning the Indo-China region, the Indo influence comes because of Kondinia, an Indian mariner. So therefore, in both Cambodian and Vietnamese history, not in Indian records. That is the most interesting thing. In India, we don't know about Kondinia. But in Cambodian and Vietnamese history, he is considered to be a very important personality who brought civilization to this space. Now, you obviously understand why do we don't know about Kondinia? Because when colonial history was being written, or history of the Indian subcontinent was being written in the colonial space, they very categorically wanted to silence something like this because this would mean that we were the one who established civilization across Southeast Asia. This is the larger project here. This is the whole concept here. That we sometimes are so oblivious of our culture that we don't have idea about Kondinia itself. It is a news to a lot of people. This is where I urge you to remember this, but also use it in essay paper and other aspects to talk about the rich cultural history of India and the idea that we have to come out of the colonial mindset. They have silenced a certain part of it's not just the British, it's everywhere. It's not the British in India, it is everywhere. We were taught that we were used. We were taught that we were a savage civilization. We were taught that we were a dark civilization. From Tankai method to the discussion which we're having right now with regards to Continia, we were a civilization which had, in a certain way, led to civilizational understanding to cross the Indian Ocean into the South China Sea. The name of naming it INS Kondinya is because we are having an AINSSV which is named after the first mariner who established civilization in Cambodia and Vietnam. So please remember there are three, four terms here which need. First is this word name. Second is Tankai method. And further, you should also remember the fact that who is Kondinya, how is it related to Cambodia and Vietnam. So don't have to go into the details per se of how they stitch it, because that is not what is expected in the examination. But if they ask you about science and technology in ancient India, this is a good point. This is a good point. The inspirations are coming from Ajanta murals to multiple symbols which were there previously. So let's do a question on this so that we can revise it also before we move ahead. Okay, come on. Tell me the answer to this question. That's the economic angle trade. Chahak, in a way, it shows the economic prowess. India was always connected to Southeast Asia and the Roman world. That is not news to us. What is news to us is the civilizational aspect here. So, come on, yes. Front foot पे खेल रहे हैं. Very good. No doubt whatsoever. Good. Both these statements are correct. I hope that you paid attention to this. I had put incorrect again, but double bluff would not work. Right. So both the statements are correct. This can come in the examination. There can be an easier type of question also, which can be in the context of ancient India. The Tankai method refers to for founding the yes co-founder, founding whatever you want to use. Same thing. No issues whatsoever. Don't overthink it. Right now, moving out of so in a way in the first 5 to 6 topics I moved from UNESCO to a methodology, now to a personality. Now he's a very well known personality within academic circle, but the unfortunate part here is that it was a movie which made his contribution in a way highlighted, meaning that is the irony of this story, that thus C Shankaran Nair was a very well known personality. But in popular imagination, unfortunately, it took a movie for him to come into focus. Now, the problem with the movie is that the story is distorted. Kesari is the problem is that the story is distorted. As much as he is the right personality there, the whole court scene is actually incorrectly shown. In the context is incorrect. But at least now we have an opportunity to remember a very, very, very towering personality of our what we call as history. It is not just dramatized, it is just purely incorrect, meaning the timeline is purely incorrect. The court case between the Shankaran Nair was with Michael O'Dwyer, who is the Lieutenant Governor of Punjab, and not Dyer. Dyer died in 1927. Uh, Rightly so from cancer, very well deserved. Would have wished more pain to him. But the problem was that The movie showed Dyer and that whole concept together. But the defamation case on which this whole episode is based on is actually on O'Dwyer. So I'll give you the correct chronological sequence of his contributions. You should remember that generally. Right. So the Sankaran Nair, Sir Sankaran Nair, rightly deserved Sir. He was born in 1857 and he he was very smart in understanding legal terminology and law. He's that was one of the most celebrated judges and lawyers of his era in that regard. He graduated from Presidency College of Madras and his legal career started under H. Shepherd, who was the Chief Justice of Madras High Court. Whom does Sardar Udham Singh kill? Come on, yaar. Udham Singh shot O'Dwyer, not Dyer, 1940. O'Dwyer. This is the basic concept. O'Dwyer, Dyer. There are two different personalities. O'Dwyer. O'Dwyer is the Lieutenant Governor of Punjab who gave the orders to Dyer to come through. Basic, you're going to give the prelims this year. O'Dwyer and Dyer, you are getting confused. Now, Sri Shankaran Nair, if you look at his achievements list, if you look at his achievement list, it is quite illustrious. Wherein he is the only, remember, only Malayali president of the Indian National Congress and one of the youngest also, 1897. The session was called the Amroti session. Amroti session, 1897. He is the only Malayali to hold that position. Further, when the Ray Commission on Education was appointed in order to curb nationalism within Bengal, he was a member of that as nominated by Curzon. Further, he became the companion of the Indian Empire in 1904, was knighted, and this sir was given to him in 1912. Then he became the first, one of the first Indian judges to become a permanent judge in the Madras High Court, and he was known for his progressive reforms. And in 1915, he joined the illustrious Viceroy's Executive Council under Education Portfolio. Now, there are thousands of questions which can be made out of this whole slide itself. You can ask anything and everything from this in any statement based question. In any statement based question. The whole sequence can be changed. They can play with the years, they can play with the commissions, they can play with this portfolio. Now, why is he known with the Jallianwala Bagh? How is he associated with the Jallianwala Bagh? So, when the Jallianwala Bagh massacre happened in 1919, the British wanted to play out the Jallianwala Bagh massacre as Dyer's attempt to kill politically charged men and women within the Jallianwala Bagh who were actually protesting against Saifuddin Kichlev and Satyapal's arrest. Rather, majority of the people there were there for Baisakhi, a political crowd. Maybe a small gathering was happening in the background. One of the darkest moment in human history. No apology from the British till today. Jallianwala Bagh massacre is the real face of the British in India. Now, because the British wanted to sweep everything under the rug, it is his resignation from the Viceroy's Executive Council which in turn led to this concept to get highlighted, Jallianwala Bagh to get highlighted across the world in Britain, and the Hunter Commission, which was established by the British to do an eyewash, was only because he resigned. Now, what happens is in the movie, this aspect is not talked about. What is talked about is a court case. But that court case was not against Dyer. What its story goes is that he wrote a book about Jallianwala Bagh and he accused Michael O'Dwyer, the lieutenant governor, as being the reason why the whole Jallianwala Bagh massacre happened. He accused O'Dwyer of being the principal responsible person for the Jallianwala Bagh because he called Dyer. O'Dwyer took it to his ego, and he then filed a defamation case in 1922 saying that he is defaming me. He should have been shot much earlier. Uddham Singh needed some time. He also deserved to be killed very well, he still lived for a very long time. A proper British bastard in that regard. The idea was that he took Nair to court. He took Nair to court and he argued that he is accusing me of something which I have not done. And thereafter, for 5.5 weeks, there was a longest running civil trial in Britain which happened. Unfortunately, and this is not, again not shown in the story, that 11 to 1 O'Dwyer's can say motion had won. That Nair was unnecessarily accusing Michael O'Dwyer. Nair was said that you apologize or pay £500 as fine. And Nair said that I will not apologize. I would rather pay the 500. Why is this important? Because this galvanized the nationalistic sense and across Britain and India highlighted the deep bias which the British had. The deep bias which British had. So see Sankaran Nair, he has his own very important portfolio. And at the same point of time, we have his very well-known defamation. So I hope that you will remember him for both of these. Now, if again you are in the right page, same page with me, we will then move on to the question. Jeet, you will not find this in static books. Spectrum will not mention him because he has been brought into focus now. Yes? Okay. Come on. Tell me the answer to this question. Come on, come on, come on. Perfect, Sandy. Perfect. Nothing better. Okay. Very good. Sri Shankaran Nair remains the only Malayali to have ever served as president of Indian National Congress. Correct? 1897 session. He resigned from Viceroy's Executive Council in 1919 in protest of dismemberment of Ottoman Empire. No, no, no. He did it because of Jallianwala Bagh massacre. What I've tried to do here is I've tried to link two timelines together. The same timeline, you have the 1914, 1918, 1919 First World War story, and the First World War story leads to Khilafat movement. So for anybody who is not vigilant, Savdhani, if not vigilant, you can mix up the timeline. This is the most messiest of the period because we have the Rowlatt Act and the First World War story together. So mostly students get confused. Why Khilafat? Why does Jallianwala Bagh come in? So first only same thing is the first also, right? Nikki, don't read too much. That is called overthinking. Sushant, as a consolidated resource, you can refer to the book because it is good for revision and it has not just AMAC, it has modern also, and it has everything in one space. If you want to refer to one consolidated, right? We are discussing this just because of the movie. No, actually, because it was the movie is not the reason why we're doing it. Because of the movie, a lot of conversation happened about it. The movie is basically false, but the idea is that it started a conversation about a man who was not previously discussed. Right? Okay. Now we now move back to UNESCO. Everybody on the same page with me? No issues whatsoever. Come on. I want everybody's yes, sir. Sir, we are all good, perfectly fine, alive. Yes, sir. Well, sir. Okay. Now, this is a tentative topic. Why? The topic which we'll discuss tomorrow is Maratha military landscape. Maratha military landscape is the addition into the UNESCO tangible heritage list. But there were six properties, and there are one more set which we'll discuss tomorrow. 6 plus 6, 12 total. 12 properties were added to the tentative list. Now, here you have to understand what does this representative tentative mean. You may have gone through it multiple times with me, but maybe one more time for revision. See, in UNESCO tangible list, which is called as World Heritage Site list. World Heritage Site, World Heritage Committee. In the UNESCO World Heritage Committee, there are two things. There are two things. If a country like India wants to add something to the representative list, first it has to create an inventory. That inventory can only be created. Diwali is intangible. That inventory can only be created through the tentative list. Meaning, every country has to nominate certain sites that are added to the tentative list of the World Heritage Committee. You can only nominate sites out of the tentative list, and when the World Heritage Committee meets, they will consider that tentative list site and add it to the representative list. Add it to the representative list. If they add it to the representative list, then it is called a World Heritage Site. It is basically like train confirmation ticket. This is basically waiting list, and this is a confirmed ticket. For example, in for the round of 2025, the site which was actually nominated was Sarnath. For 2024, it was Maratha military landscape, which got its recognition this year. So when in 2026 the committee is going to meet, it will take into consideration Sarnath. So the idea is that you have to understand this point very clearly, that none of the sites which I'm discussing are World Heritage sites. They're all tentative list sites which are sitting in the UNESCO tangible heritage list as a tentative site to be nominated later, to be taken into consideration by the committee for representative. So please, in the examination, pay attention to the word representative and tentative, because if it says tentative, then most probably it is not a World Heritage Site. So this is the first point which I wanted to point out with regard to this current affair. I hope this is sorted. Sorted? Now, let's go to the second aspect. Which are the six sites which we are discussing? Today six, tomorrow six, and we'll discuss Maratha military landscape also. So the Kangair Valley National Park, under the natural, there are three categories under which you can be added: natural, cultural, mixed. So mixed is when it is natural and cultural both. For example, Kanchar Dezonga, and you have fully cultural, fully natural. So Kangair Valley National Park in Chhattisgarh was nominated under natural tentative list, and it is the home to the Bastar Hill Maina, which is the state bird of Chhattisgarh, and at the same point of time, it is known for its dense forest, biodiversity, limestone caves. So its natural diversity and its biodiversity both make it an important. We nominated. Nothing out of the box. The river which flows to the west is called Kolab, and we have the Kangair River, which flows centrally. That is why it's called Kangair Valley National Park. So now this becomes in a way places it also. Then the second site which has got nominated and which should have got nominated very previously also, meaning it's very late to nominate it, is Ashokan Pillar Edict site. When we do ancient medieval art and culture, and in art and culture, the first thing which we discuss under architecture is the pillar architecture of Ashoka, with its shaft, lower abacus, upper abacus, capital figure, and the whole capital itself. This is what we discuss in class. And Ashoka placed all of these different, you can say, edicts across his empire. The major pillar edicts are very important because they are, as it is important because of the capital figure. We have the Dhauli elephant, which is one of the oldest rock cut architecture. We have the four lions, which is the emblem of the nation itself. Further, across India, we can see pillars having dhamma or some form of administrative decree on it. So, inspired from the concept of Achaemenid pillars, a freestanding, tunar, monolithic, and purpose driven pillars are one of the most important contributions of Ashoka. So, that ways they have been nominated. I hope that it gets the status also because it deserves to be in there. Further, we have the Chaussat Yogini temple, which again has already been asked by UPSC, but still remains relevant with regards to a tentative list site. Now, the Chaussat Yogini temple, also called as the Ekotsara Mahadevi temple, it is known as Chaussat Yogini because it is based on Shakti, 64 yoginis as they're called. That is why 64 Chaussat Yogini. And it is basically a Shiva temple in the middle and 64 yoginis around it. It is the Kachapagata king Devapala who basically created these temples in that regard. It represents feminine power, divine power, and also at the same point of time, it is believed that the old parliament building was inspired by its design. Now, if you look at the design of the Chaussat Yogini temple, we have the central Shiva shrine, along with that, the 64 yoginis in a circle. And this is obviously very close to what we see as the parliament itself. Yogini is a cult. Yogini means divine Shakti, female power. Chaussat yoginis. Chaussat divine powers, female powers. So Yogini is a cult. The cult which exists within the Shaivite pantheon. So with regards to Chaussat Yogini, we have already seen a question. Four statement based had come, but it was purely based on the new parliament being inaugurated. So it is feminine power which was being celebrated. So this again coming through may be a long shot, but you never know with UPSC. Then the Gupta temples in North India, which represent, if you remember, that is the name of the kingdom itself. Yes, which represent the five stages of temple development. The five stages through temple developed from the Sachi temples to what we see in Rajgir Manyar Mutt. All the Gupta period temples have now been added into the tentative list so that they represent the evolution of Nagara style. Nagara style architecture actually developed through these five stages, which we can see in most of these temples, specifically Deoghar. Deoghar represents stage 3, where you get the Shikhar also, Garbhagriha also, Mandapa also, raised platform also, along with Panchayatan. So stage 3 is where all the major forms of temple architecture, which is Nagara style architecture, emerge together. So that was quite interesting, and that was quite important also because it allows us to then establish a very important cultural history, which again has been ignored. This is again a point which needs to be noted. These things should have been nominated much earlier. Gupta period, Ashokan period, generally quite important. Now, the next is something which can be relevant for you for the examination because Chandela architecture has already been asked. In GS paper 1 in 2025, Khajuraho was asked. Now, because the Bundelas have been in the news with regards to Bundela for palace fortresses in Orcha, in Chanderi, and in Daitya, all have been now nominated into tentative list for their very beautiful architecture, which is a marriage between Rajput and Mughal architecture. Rudra Pratap Singh is the one who actually developed this architecture in that regard, which is a marriage with Indo-Islamic architecture. These buildings represent the zenith in that regard. Beautiful domes, also embellished with chhatris, have a very strong influence of temple design, also Hinduistic architecture, but also Mughal architecture. That ways, you have must have seen something like this in Jahangiri Mahal. This is the multi-story buildings which they create as palace fortresses. Orcha and the Bundela architecture is again on a different level altogether. Regional architecture generally remains in focus, is generally important, but I hope that you will pay attention to this because this now becomes in focus and UPSC can ask a direct question on what is the contribution of the Bundelas to the cultural history of India. Then the last is something related to megalithic. Now, the megalithic period is a very interesting period in South India with regards to two to three things which need to be taken into consideration. It is a period which has been constructed through archaeological records. What is common to these archaeological sites is big stone burials called megalithic, big lithic, big stone. And most of these sites have different types of megalithic. One is called chambered, the other one is called unchambered. Chambered, you have, for example, cyst, Dolomonite cyst, dolmen, meaning underground, partially underground, fully overground, which is cyst, Dolomonite cyst, dolmen. Then in India, for example, we have Kudai Kals, Topi Kals, which are a form of chambered dolmens. Now, in unchambered, we have something called menhirs. You have in this unchambered, you have this pit, so what is called as circular stone circle. Then you have crane. Then you have crane stone circle, and then you have menhir. Menhirs in Telangana in a place called Mudumal have now been nominated. Menhirs are basically like tombstones. People are buried here, and these tombstones or these menhirs are to celebrate. They are donative, celebrative stones which tell you the story of the people who are buried under it. We believe that in most cases, these menhirs were for a lot of people who were considered heroes, local heroes, important personalities in that regard. So therefore, menhirs of the Mudumal megalithic site in Telangana is now in context. This makes megalithic important for the examination, specifically when we talk about UPSC prelims and mains both. So please pay attention to these aspects. Six we have discussed. One is the Mauryan edicts, the Gupta temples, the Bundelas, Kanger National Park, Menhirs, and Chaussat Yogini. So it had six topics inbuilt into this topic. Megalithic sites are found in Gufral, Burza Home, and in northeastern sector also. It is not specific to South India, though most of the sites are in South India. Most of the sites are in Maski, Brahmagiri, Achitra, and all of that. Rather, Achitra. So I hope that this is sorted. Can I ask you questions out of this area? Can I do that? Yes or no? Yes, sir. Okay. Come on. Tell me the answer to this question. Adichanallur is also a very important site. So remember, you don't have to miss tomorrow's session because we will consider the next six, which are all natural sites, plus the latest edition tomorrow. Because I'm moving from Jan to June, and the date came in October, November. So please, we will not do the representative list today, tomorrow. Very good. No, no, we have a lot of left. Don't worry. All both the statements are correct. Kausat Yogini temples are open as circular shrines. Yes. Divine feminine. Yes. And feminine power, which is Shiva plus divine feminine Shakti. Old Parliament building, Devpala, Kachatam. Perfectly fine. The statements are correct. Now, we have now completed the first major set. We have now completed the first major set, which is we have completed, you can say, the heavy portions. Now we'll go into smaller areas, but important, equally important. Can we do that, everyone? Yes or no? Yes, sir. Okay, great. Now, there has been a recent renaming of Fort William, rightly so, which is in Calcutta, which is also the eastern headquarters of the Indian Army. It has now been called as Vijayadurg. Very important, both from Maratha perspective and from renaming perspective. So the Indian Army's eastern headquarters, which was placed in the Fort William in Calcutta, is now called as Vijayadurg, removing the colonial mindset and the colonial terminology and naming it after Maharashtra's oldest fort, which is called Sindhudurg Fort, which has Vijayadurg inside it. And and the Kitchener House inside has been renamed, rightly so, Manekshaw House, and St. George's Gate is now called as Shivaji Gate. So they have now fully changed the renaming from Andaman and Nicobar Islands, the individual islands being renamed with regards to what Subhash Chandra Bose called him, to this, an important process. Now, Fort William is a very important part of modern Indian history. The reason for that is because this is where the Plassey context gets created. It is Fort William that was captured by Sirajuddaulah, and the black hole incident both happened here. And at the same point of time, it represents a past which was a story of subordination of Indian subcontinent. It was commissioned in 1696, finished in 1706, named after William III of England, on the banks of the river Hooghly. Siege of Calcutta, Plassey, and Black Hole all are related to this site only. The Fort William people tend to know. There's one more context which you may know, which is called Fort William College, Wellesley, which was closed because the Board of Control did not like, or the Court of Directors did not like him training the officers in India. So this is again nothing new for you per se, but significant in your imagination because now the renaming has happened. So you should know what Vijay Durg actually represents. Now, to the favorite topic of UPSC aspirant, though useless, but very anxiety driven, GI tags, which is today and tomorrow. I'll give you two sets of GI tags. And I have previously made it very clear that for a UPSC aspirant, it is impossible to learn all GI tags because it is 500 plus. So, if that is your personal goal, please don't waste your time. First. Second thing, it is a moving target, meaning every year things will get added and it will keep on get updated. Now, there are two things. I have a responsibility to you, which is I could have easily said, don't bother about GI tags. But then you would say, sir, you are an irresponsible personality. You don't care about us. You don't understand how the paper comes through. So give us GI tags list. So I am the second one, which is I know that you want this list, but I'm giving you a disclaimer automatically. Please don't try to learn each one of them. You will not remember it also. इसकी मैं गारंटी दे हटोगे नहीं याद because there is too much to learn. But for your personal satisfaction and for UPSC being the unpredictable public service commission, let's do it. But I'll tell you, GI state, if you can remember this much, half of the story is after that, as it is, you will not remember. I am being very clear in saying this. This is the first list, list one, tomorrow, list two. So please make sure that you look at the second session also. Because from Jan to June, there were certain additions. From June to December, there will be another set. Right? The probable questions, Naidu can be made. But as one of you pointed out, there has been no direct question on GI ever. So it's basically like learning rivers and river systems. One, two question here and there still comes for river. This is nothing comes here. It's about personal satisfaction. Why not for your satisfaction? Anything. Now, between January and June, the first major addition was Kher Sangri. Kher Sangri, Rajasthan, a very well celebrated dish out of Rajasthan. Kher Sangri is now officially a GI tagged Rajasthani dish. For the students who I don't think there should be anybody who has no idea what is a GI. But I will not presume or assume that you don't know it. So for 1 minute, bear with me. Geographical indication tag is based on the TRIPS regime, which is trade related intellectual property rights, which has patent, trademark, copyright, and registered under it. GI in India is governed by the Geographical Indications Act of 1999, and GI is not given to an individual but to a region, which means that anything which has a unique taste, unique feature because of its geographical origin gets GI tag. So therefore, GI tag can be given to not to a company, not to an individual, but to a region. WTO regime. We can take a GI tag in a different country. Germany, Italy can take it in India. Meaning, we have multiple GI tagged things which are there in India also from foreign countries. It is not a regime which is very stringently legal punishment or penalization is there. Rather, they there is reprimand based understanding. Meaning, if there's a person selling Darjeeling tree out of Karnataka, then he will be reprimanded by the GI registrar that you should not use the word GI tagged tea or Darjeeling tea. So therefore, what happens is if Kher Sangri is made in Rajasthan, it can be only sold as Kher Sangri Rajasthan GI if it is coming from Rajasthan. Meaning nobody in Delhi can claim that we are making the GI tagged Kher Sangri. This is a very important point you have to understand, and not given to individual, not given to individuals, given to a region. So nobody individually can claim something like. So now, why is it called Kher Sangri? Kher because it is made out of a small wild berry. Sangri because it is made out of the beans of the kejri tree. It was a food which was made for route purposes where fresh vegetables were not available, and the sangri bean is believed to be very important because it is produced in drought like condition. Now it is a delicacy from this area, and there are other things which are also marked as GI from Rajasthan. I've given you a list here, but don't try to learn it very clearly. Don't try to learn it. You can remember Kher Sangri if you want to. As I said, based on the old ultimate pattern and the overall pattern, this discussion is only in namesake for your understanding and for your satisfaction. We have no real pattern to argue that this will come in the examination, but it is an important aspect of art and culture. Maybe others would not say it, would fearmonger. I don't want to do that. Now, this is easy because this has the name of the place. This has the name of the place inbuilt into the name of the product itself. The Banarsi Shenai, Tabla, and Mirchi recently got the GI tag, meaning the Banarsi Bharvan Mirch, Banarsi Senai, and Banarsi Tabla. This will never be asked because the name itself has the place name in it. So, Banaras Shenai, which is known to be very, very deeply associated with Ustad Bismillah Khan, who is known to have, you can say, famously played it on the first Independence Day celebrations at the Red Fort. This is a very auspicious, you can say, instrument mostly played at across weddings and important occasions when delegates come to India. At the same point of time, the Banarsi tabla, which is also called the Purab Gharana tabla, this has also got a GI tag with regards to the idea that uh, it is used in Kathak dance, which is also related to UP, and it is known for its very intricate, what we call as craftsmanship, and its very tonal clarity of Banarsi tabla. And we also have the Banarsi Lal Bharvan Mich, which is related to, again, Banaras, known for its vitamin A and C content. So again, as I said, nothing really out of the box, because UPSC can't ask a question with the name of the place given in the name itself. Then this is a place where UPSC can play a game. I have one question for you here, so don't skip this topic. I have two statement based questions for you here. It is called the Kannadipya. Now, Kannadipya is a unique tribal handicraft coming out of Kerala. Remember, it has Kannada in the name. It is nothing to do with Karnataka. It is from Kerala, and it is the only or one of the first tribal handicrafts to get a GI tag from Kerala. Now, why is it known as Kanadipya? Which is that it is a very soft inner layer of bamboo reed carpet. It remains warm in winters and cool in summers. Very beautiful, known for its very mirror like, you can say, uh, sheen in that regard. Beautiful tradition coming out of Kerala, and now it has been recognized as a GI, one of the first tribal handicrafts to receive GI from Kerala. It's basically a mat. It's basically a bamboo mat, if you want to call it, but it has a specific name in that regard. Now, it was presented to kings via tribal chiefs as a mark of honor, and the GI tag, the Forest Research Institute played a very important role in getting it. Now, there are 7 items which were nominated from West Bengal, all mostly sweets. West Bengal, 7 new products, including the Nolen Gurer Sandesh, were given the GI tag. So this should not be very difficult to associate, because Sandesh is something which is generally considered a very important delicacy from Kolkata, from West Bengal in that regard. So this should not be something difficult. It is made out of the sweet good, and which is date palm jaggery, which is made out. That is why it's called Nolen Gurer. And thereafter we also have the bonde, the chenabora, the laddu, which also got the GI tag. Also got the GI tag. Again, bonde, chenabora, and laddu. It is easy to associate. Bishnupur. So this is all West Bengal. Then there are two things which you may have to remember: the Radhun Pagal rice, which is related to West Bengal, and the Malda. Again, Malda is associated with West Bengal. So here you only have to remember this one, the Radhuni Pagal rice, because this is the only one which has not the name of the place, which gives it away. So I'm trying to give you a hack here. The hack is where UPSC has the name of the place in the what we call as product. It will never ask that question because it becomes a giveaway. So you may have to play with the concept where the name of the place is not placed. For example, here, which is Meghalaya and Rindia and Khasi handloom. Now, Khasi handloom will never come, because Garo Khasi Jante everybody knows. So this will not be asked in the examination, but this can be asked in the exam coming from Meghalaya. So the government of India give GI tag to Meghalaya's Rindia silk and Khasi handloom. Both recognize the tribal work and the tribal heritage of this place. And Rindia is known for its very natural dye, hand spun technology, and it is going to give a lot of economic potential to the tribal population there. GI tags expected to expand the visibility in that. Khasi handloom, again, very iconic products coming out of the Meghalaya sector. But as I said, Khasi handloom is difficult to ask because Khasi already has the name of the place in it. The last is the Warangal Chatpata chili. So now again, the Warangal name is there. Telangana automatically comes into context. Known for its very bright tomato chili color. It is known for its shape and its you can say taste also. Again, the name and the place are automatically inbuilt, so there can be no real question which. Now, in order to show you what a realistic question can come, I have two questions for you. Would you want to answer them? Just checking the knowledge of the past 10-15 minutes. Please don't switch off. Don't think that it is a very heavy area. It is not something which you have to learn per se. Just have to just have to steer through this area. GI tag is like this only. Always. Okay. Tell me the answer to this question. Manisha, you are referring to patents. GI tags can be given for 10-year also, 20-year also. It has to be renewed, but no specific time period. Patents are given for 10 years, then you have to renew it for another 10 years. Okay. Say Kher Sangri is a traditional Rajasthani dish that evolved as a survival food during droughts utilizing desert plants. Correct. AG tree yields the Sangri bean, which is considered sacred by Bishnoi community. Totally correct. Answer is C. Okay. Now read this question. GI tags validity is 10 years, but it is not specific that it will be only given to for 10 years. Unlike patent, when there's a rule that it will be given for 10 years in India. Tarak not called sacred groves per se, but yes, part of that larger culture. BBBBB. In the context of the examination, this question will become very difficult. I hope you realize that. Abhi you're fresh, that is why you're able to realize that it is Kerala and the answer becomes B. But in the context of the examination, your mind will start to play games with you. Where a very well known fact, you will start to question. You start to question. But I hope that these questions are generally helping. If you like these questions, if you want questions like this, tomorrow also I'll keep in the relevant areas the questions where I believe the question should be. If you think that this is helping, generally practice, learn within the session itself. I'll add these questions, right? So, okay. For the students who are watching this in recorded fashion, do write the answers in the chat box later. Yes, please give, sir. Your wish is my command. Very, very. Okay. Now, some small topics, small topics which we have to cover. There are certain temples which are in the news, and at the same point of time, we have two, three, you can say updates which I want to give you. The PPT will be available in the link given in the description box, which we will redirect to a certain repository in which all Conquer prelims is there. Don't have to worry. Okay. Now, in Udampati, there was a certain Shiva temple which was actually excavated. Now, why is this important? Because it pertains to the Pandya period, first thing. Second thing, which is equally important, is with the place where this temple has been found. A lot of inscriptions used to tell us that there were a lot of temples here. But unfortunately, we were not able to excavate anything. Recently, some boys who were playing in an open tank near this area, open ground near this area, were able to unearth the said temples. And now we have found multiple inscriptions and temples in this sector. Now, why is the inscription important? Because within those inscriptions, we have seen a very interesting sale of land transaction inscription there. See, the British would make us believe that there was no concept of private property in India before they came to India. However, this inscription shows us how a sale of a water body and adjoining land was made between two people. This shows you the sophisticated nature of land tenure in India. This only tells you that India per se was not as dark as the British would argue. And as early as in the Pandya period, we are seeing transactions happening and recorded in inscriptional history. So, for your purpose, what is important is the place and the period. Nothing out of the box here, nothing very difficult here. Simple, straightforward concept. So, if they ask you about the place, it is important because the temple has been. Now, moving on to the Kanyakumari district, again, a prehistoric site has been unearthed at this place in Tamil Nadu, wherein in the Kanyakumari district we have what are called as Neolithic rock grooves have been found. Why is this important? Basically, because basically they used to sharpen their tools here. Now, why? It's nothing out of the box, but adds to the Neolithic and cultural heritage of Tamil Nadu per se, telling us how important this Tamil country, as it is called, or Tamilkam, as it is called, was important in the cultural history of India. Because when we talk about Neolithic age, we don't per se talk about Tamil Nadu too much. So therefore, be it the Vegai Valley civilization or be it the Neolithic sites, on a day-to-day basis, Tamil Nadu ASI is doing very good work in unearthing the prehistoric and historic history of the peninsular sector. So that way is very interesting and very important. You should know what is called as a Paleolithic groove, rock grooves. Rock grooves are nothing but places where they used to keep their chopper chopping or different form of cells and used to make them sharp. It's a sharpening knife space basically. Then moving on to an organization which was in the news because of a place. It's called Rajan Rajan Ki Bauli. Now, why am I having this discussion is because World Monuments Fund India, ASI, and the TCS Foundation together, very simply restored a Bauli, and that Bauli was restored from the money coming from the World Monuments Fund India. So now for us, a non-UNESCO body becomes very meaning headquarters in New York City. It has conserved close to 700 sites across 112 countries. It is an independent organization which helps in safeguarding cultural heritage. At the same point of time, now World Monuments Fund family has World Monuments Fund India as a part. And this has been doing wonders in India to establish and restore a lot of the cultural heritage. This is the discussion which matters. The most important discussion which matters. Because you have an organization in the news which you may associate with UNESCO. Non UNESCO. Remember this point, coordinates with UNESCO but is non UNESCO. Now, then comes into context this Rajan Ki Bauli. Rajan Ki Bauli is in the Mehroli Archaeological Park, part of the Kutub Gard. Lodi era, water reservoir. Daulat Khan Lodi was the one under which this Rajan Ki Bauli was being constructed. One of the one people who invited Babar, but Sikandar Lodi is the one who basically maintained it. Now, looking at Rajan Ki Bauli, it is called Rajan Ki Bauli because it was a Bauli, a step well for masons, Raj Mistris, like that. So this is the restored Bauli. Baulis are important landscape of Rajasthan, Haryana, and Delhi and areas like that because where wells are not possible per se, step wells are made, and that is given a very specific name which is called Bauli. So, very simply, Rajan Ki Bauli was in the news. Lodi era, the architecture, but equally important, this organization. Remember this organization, very important for prelims and mains, both specifically prelims. Everybody's on the same page with me. Now going to pick up the pace, small topics, nothing specifically related to a larger understanding, unlike previously. The point with regards to quiz is noted, it will be taken into consideration. Don't worry. Okay, now an important personality who was associated with Kathak passed away this year. Now again, she generally thought for groundwater management. It is not a groundwater management concept. It is rather accessing groundwater in drought-prone areas where the water table is very low. Uh, it can be used for rainwater harvesting. Now, Kumudi Lakhia is one of the most celebrated Kathak dancers in India. Unfortunately, you may have not known about her because, as it is, we don't care about her culture. She is the one who made Kathak popular across the world. In one of the most celebrated movies, Umrao Jan, she was the one who was the choreographer also. At the same point of time, she made sure that the Kathak dance got its place in the larger universe of classical dances across the world and also in India. So Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan, Padma Vibhushan, Sangeet Natak Academy, Kalidas Samman, and Gaurav Puraskar from the Gujarat government. There was no award she did not get. And at the same point of time, she gave lectures on creativity, performance across India, US, and Europe about how dance is an expression. If you've gone through UCAN sessions, you may know about her. If you don't, please remember her name. Her name can be asked directly as what is she associated to. Then we have a very interesting scheme. The reason why we discuss this scheme is not because it is a very out of the box scheme. It is a scheme which looks like a Ministry of External Affairs type scheme, global engagement scheme. Now the problem with this is it is not actually related to the Ministry of External Affairs. It is a scheme which the Ministry of Culture is running. Don't have to remember the years. Don't have to. The global engagement scheme is the nodal agency is the Ministry of Culture, and the main reason is it wants to promote Indian culture abroad. So it has three components basically. Any Indian mission abroad, meaning Indian High Commission abroad, festivals, grant in aid, and grants to international organization, meaning any organization which is, for example, teaching Kathak, they will give money. If there's a festival they want to hold at a grand scale, they'll give money. Grant in aid to in certain institutions which want to teach Indian culture. So very easily misled. Very easily you will get misled in the examination because sunne mein external affairs lagta hai. But it is actually not external affairs. It is purely based on soft power and yes, based on the concept of appropriating and making them realize the importance of Indian culture. So any organization abroad which is trying to use Indian culture will be given a grant in aid in global engagement scheme. Remember this point, Ministry of Culture is nodal agency, not Ministry of External Affairs. Thereafter, the Tamil Ramayan again was in the news because of its restorative attempts made by the Tamil Nadu government. The Ministry of Culture, along with the Tamil Nadu government, are trying to restore, preserve, and promote the Kamba Ramayan. Now, the Kamba Ramayan, written by a renowned Tamil poet, Kambara, and Kambara actually he's known as the emperor of poets in Tamil Nadu. He wrote a very important version of Valmiki Ramayan, in which was in Sanskrit to Tamil, and this is the Tamil Ramayan in that regard. Now he becomes important, the personality becomes important. Plus, you should also know about his works. And what I've done is I've given you a list here. All his literary works are here. This could be sprinkled across in the examination. for the purpose of match the following. So please, you should know Kamba Ramayan, but you should also know the other works which is associated. This is where your role of learning is going to be very important, and my role of giving you the information is very, very important. I can't make you learn it. He was writing during Kotunga third, very important Chola king. But I will point this out to you. Important list. If they randomly ask anything out of it, it would not be random, but associated with the current affairs of the period which we are talking about. Now, moving on to the last two topics. Now we are in the month of January in that regard, and one is Dokra artwork, which was in the news. The reason for that was because the Prime Minister gave Macron a Dokra artwork musician set and his wife a mirror made out of Dokra casting. Now, what is Dokra? Dokra casting is ancient metal craft practice which is done in Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Odisha, West Bengal, and Telangana. And it is known for its lost wax technique, which something which you would know. It was as early as in IVC, it was used. Now, Dokra casting can be asked with any of these states, and a statement based question or a match the following question can come for it. So please make sure that you are aware of the states which Dokra casting is associated. Any of the states, if it is given. Now, moving on to the last topic. Before I do that, I hope that the past 1 hour 40 fruitful. I will see you tomorrow again at the same time and you will join me. And now we have finally reached the last major discussion, which is Jhumoir assemblage and Republic Day. So in Assam, the Prime Minister inaugurated one of the most celebrated, a world record setting, what we call as assemblage of Jhumoir dancers. Jhumoir is a dance form which is associated with the tea plantation and tea producing community of Assam. And there are two to three words which were there. First, this is in itself a spectacle which was done, but he then also played a traditional drum which is associated with tea garden community, which is called Homsa. This is very, very important because this can be asked automatically automatically in the examination. You will get the annotated PPTs in the link given in the description box for all Conquer Film sessions. Centralized, it has been created. So there's no confusion per se. So remember Dhomsa, Jhumoir. Now two words which you should know generally. Know generally for the examination. Now, 2025 Republic Day had a lot of things associated. Had a lot of things associated. First was the fact that when the president invited people to the at-home function, she associated a lot of things in that hamper, wherein multiple GI tagged products, which included Pochampally ikat to the Etikopakka toys to Kalamkari on bamboo to Kanchipuram silk, all were there in with regards to in that small hamper which was sent by the president for the at home function. So now this is an important list generally. When the 2026 Republic Day will happen, I will again be there on YouTube with some discussion on what were the art forms which were referred to in the what we call as tableaus. We'll discuss that also. So they provide unedited PPTs. Acha, if that is the case, I'll get it sorted. Don't worry. I will, if that is going to be the case, I will upload my PPT into my Telegram channel. Don't worry about it. मैं unedited नहीं होना चाहिए, but if it is there, we'll get that sorted. No issues whatsoever. Themes, ancient, medieval, modern. What are the key topics to focus? This is the whole point of this discussion, Revti. Other than ancient, medieval, modern, whatever is in the news we're discussing here, and other than that, you have to go through the major high yielding areas which we'll discuss in phase 3 of this discussion. Okay. Now, other than that, tableaus for Andhra Pradesh, we had the Etipokapaka toys. So you should know the GI about it. For Bihar, Nalanda was in focus. For Tripura, it was Karchi Puja which was in focus. At the same point of time in Karnataka, we had Lakhundi temples in focus. This is very important. Chalukyan dynasty based temples, beautiful temples made out of Vesara style. Kalyani Chalukyas were the ones who created 50 temples. This was in focus with regards to Karnataka. At the same point of time, Goa, we had Karvi art. Karvi art means it's a very specific type of Konkan region based art which is done on temples and on buildings. This was in focus for Goa. So, before I end this session, I want to discuss about one Tamil Nadu site which deserves our attention, which may not come in the examination, but was in the news for sure, which is Shivagalai. There is a whole set of sites which were actually excavated in Tamil Nadu, which includes Shivagalai, Adi Chanarlur, and these two other sites. And why they are important is because they have yielded iron. Now, why is this important? Because the iron is dating to, according to the report of the Tamil Nadu ASI, 3345 BCE. This would make this site older than IVC. IVC main period is 2600 1700, maximum 3200, which would then prove that iron was smelted and used in South India much, 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 much before than it was done in IVC, making Vergai Valley civilization a much older urban civilization than IVC. Again, not accepted within the larger scheme of things, but should be in your focus and you should know why they are in the news. So, on this note, I'll wrap up this session. The purpose of the discussion was threefold. First, to point out what was in the news. Second, to point out why it was in the news. Third, it was to learn, practice with. I've discussed close to 30 topics. I'll try to keep it to this same, you can say, level. All major topics from June to December, I will discuss tomorrow. I hope you will join me tomorrow. At the same point of time, don't worry about the PPT. I will get it sorted. If we have, no, if the PPT is blank, we will give you the annotated PPT within that link. You leave it to me. We will figure it out by tomorrow. So thank you so much. I hope that this session has been fruitful. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye. See you tomorrow, same time.